There's a lot happening in Washington, D.C. and throughout the country impacting the economy. According to Market Watch, quote, shares of U.S.-based steel makers saw broad gains Monday as investors believed that President Donald Trump's latest tariffs on steel and aluminum imports would level the playing field and boost demand for metal produced domestically, close quote. Where markets are operating has also seen a dramatic shift. It used to be that New York City simply dominated the accumulation of financial talent, and it's still a powerhouse, no question. But in North Texas, Ross Perot Jr. is betting big that more finance talent will actually choose the Lone Star Republic over the Big Apple. He's investing in a redevelopment of the Dallas skyline to accommodate massive increases in the investment sector in Texas. So look out, Wall Street. The Texas Cowboys are starting Y'all Street. The Wall Street Journal is certainly taking notice with a big spread on the big move. According to the piece, quote, data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics shows that Texas investment banking and securities employment has increased 111% over the last 20 years and 27% since the pandemic. That compares with 16% and 5% respectively in New York. The number of people employed in finance overall has risen 13% in Texas since 2019 compared to just 2% in New York and 3% nationally. Dallas now ranks second to New York City among metro areas with the number of workers employed in the finance-related industries. Other cities, particularly in the Sun Belt, have seen growth as those services increasingly seek to be closer to customers nationwide, close quote. Here to discuss everything happening in Texas and Washington, D.C. that could impact your money is Texas Congressman and former Wall Street wizard Brandon Gill. So, Congressman, the Wall Street Journal has this big piece out that there is Y'all Street energy in the Sun Belt. So many successful people from finance in New York choosing Texas as a place to grow their dreams. You actually returned from a successful career in New York back home to Texas. So I thought you could tell us what's prompting the move.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. And you're exactly right. Texas is the place to do business. This is a place where we have no state income tax. We have a very modest sales tax. We have a regulatory regime that is conducive to businesses growing and starting and thriving. This is a phenomenal example of conservative policies done well that are attracting businesses, they're attracting wealth, they're attracting people. And I'll also remind you that the quality of life in Texas is great as well. We don't have, at least not to the extent New York and California do, woke schools going after our children. We don't have a lot of the social problems that left-wing states do. And that's why not only businesses, but people from across the country are moving to Texas.
The data is clear that the growth in the financial sector in Texas is exceeding the growth that we see in New York. With more people able to work in the financial space from home or with remote work options, do you see that really allowing people to choose the Sun Belt as opposed to having to live in some major urban area in the Northeast?
Well, that's exactly right. I represent a district just north of the DFW Metroplex, which is becoming one of the new hubs for the financial sector. There's a new exchange that should be coming online here in the next couple of years that is developed incredibly rapidly. We've seen an enormous amount of money being poured in to the DFW area. We've seen major financial institutions invest in the area, where I'm talking Charles Schwab, major investment firms, investment banks. So this is where people are coming. I think that the financial sector, just like everybody else, is tired of high taxes in New York. They're tired of the regulatory environment, and they're tired of getting off work and walking down a street and having to be concerned about some violent thug punching them in the face randomly. You don't have issues like that in Texas, and that's why people are thrilled to get down here.
Y'all Street may indeed be safer than Wall Street, and that wouldn't surprise any of us. We are seeing some movement in U.S. markets since President Trump's announcement of aluminum and steel tariffs. Domestic producers are seeing a boost. Do you think that those increases for domestic producers are a sugar high or part of a durable lift in the American economy?
No, I think that this is step one in a new America First agenda that we've seen from the White House. President Trump has been fulfilling promises left and right. It's been so refreshing to have a president who finally does what he said he was going to do. And part of that was the America First agenda. I think that it's dangerous for the United States to rely on hostile foreign nations, whether for energy or for steel or for food or for semiconductors or for anything else. And that's what President Trump is doing. He's putting this country first, and he's using our economic might to get exercise America's interests on the world stage.
No question about it. So the House of Representatives today released its plan for the budget reconciliation process. How would you describe that plan as released to your constituents, and do you plan to vote for it?
Well, we're still working through it right now. I've got more meetings this evening. We've got a markup, which probably going to be all day tomorrow. So there are still some details that we're working through. And what I can tell you is that I'm very confident that we're going to get where we need to be. We're just ironing out the little bits and pieces that need to get done before we can get everything solidified. But House Republicans are united in getting the Trump agenda passed. All of us ran on securing the border and fighting back against the administrative state and cutting taxes and cutting regulations. But we've got to iron out the details. I feel pretty good we're going to get there.
It seems to be the big difference between the Senate approach and the House approach is one of ambition and how many different subject areas are addressed. The Senate plan seems to be pretty laser focused on some of the immigration features. The House plan also includes the extension of these tax cuts. Do you think that the House or Senate have a better approach to the budget negotiations, or is that really not the focus and ultimately we land at the same spot?
Well, there's a process debate right now about whether we do one bill or two bills. I think if we can get this done with a single bill, that is, of course, preferable. The question is whether that is politically feasible. This is a complex piece of legislation. As you mentioned, we're talking about trillions of dollars in tax cuts. We're talking about border security, energy, defense spending. We're talking about rationalizing spending in areas where our federal government has no business spending money on illegal aliens or other programs. There are a lot of details that we've got to work through. Now, I think that if we can do it in one bill, I think that's great. I think that there is a very strong case to be made here for a two-bill approach, whether that's the framework laid out in the Senate or something that could originate in the House and get, let's get a quick win for the president. Let's get border and energy and defense policy done quickly, and then we can deal with some of the more complicated issues. But I'll say the track we're going down right now is a single bill. I'm committed to doing everything we can to get this done, and the rest of the House is. We'll see how the process itself gets worked out here in the next few days.
We wish you Godspeed, Texas Congressman Brandon Gill, and a great champion for the Y'all Street Energy to bring brilliant financial minds to the low taxes and safe streets of the state of Texas. Thanks so much for being here, my friend.
Matt, thanks for having me.